Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here once again to talk about all things Star Wars. Got some incredible news to talk about, as well as the ending to the latest Disney Plus series, the book of Boba Fett. I was going to put out a show end of last week, but then I wanted to hold off for earlier this week, which was Star Wars Podcast Day, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But then it got to be Tuesday, and I was like, you know what? One more day until the finale of the Book of Boba Fett, which was today. So I figured I'd wait another day, watch that, and be able to talk about that on this episode. So I'll get to that, but let's get into a couple bit of news here. First off, Star Wars Podcast Day, which is February 7th. It's kind of an unofficial podcast, Star Wars podcast community event, organized by the Twitter handle here, Star Wars Podcast Day. Most of the shows have released shows out there on February 7th. Me and Martin did the Mandalore podcast, which goes out every Monday anyway. So it just kind of happened to fall on Star Wars Podcast Day. So we were able to participate with that. And for this show, I was going to put out an episode, but like I said, I wanted to wait until Book of Boba Fett ended and go ahead and knock that out as well. But most shows came out on the 7th, but a couple other ones were filtering out throughout the week. So anyway, you're getting this show, kind of the Star Wars Podcast Day show, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But Star Wars Podcast Day celebrates February 7th, the first Star Wars podcast, which was released in 1999 by a podcast called The Jedi Talk. And that is what we are kind of celebrating in the essence of this. So I thought that would be pretty cool to participate in. Both Inside the Force and Mandalore were part of it. So anyway, it's just a bunch of podcasts, Star Wars podcasts. I think 97 of them were participating this year that put out episodes this week and on that day throughout the week. So again, just an acknowledgement of the organization of it. I think it's pretty cool. This is the second year they've done it. We've participated both years, and just wanted to acknowledge that and say that part of podcasting is the listeners and the watchers, obviously. So thank you for supporting this show, but also supporting all the other shows that you may listen to or watch. Hopefully they all offer, some unique look at Star Wars for you and give you a platform to comment and add to it, which I welcome. Obviously, I want to have this conversation with people. So thank you. And thank you to the organizers of Star Wars Podcast Day, and look for it to be even bigger next year. Hopefully this thing keeps growing and growing and growing. So that'd be really neat. So anyway, on to Star Wars news. Some big news. I had it on my notes that, there were some rumors that Obi-Wan was going to debut in May. We even mentioned this on the Mandalore podcast, that it was going to debut in May. Of course, the speculation was that May the 4th lands on a Wednesday, so Obi-Wan may debut at that point, but doesn't look like it, because Star Wars officially announced today that Obi-Wan is going to debut May 25th on Disney Plus. May 25th is actually, again, a Wednesday, and it is actually the 45th anniversary of the release of A New Hope. So that makes sense too. It's also one day before Star Wars Celebration starts. Star Wars Celebration this year is May 26th to the 29th in Anaheim. So that also does make sense. What doesn't kind of make sense right now is the gap we're having right now between Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. I thought that would be a little smaller just because, we're getting the Bad Batch season 2 apparently this year, and we're getting Andor, and then apparently we're possibly getting the beginning of Mandalorian season 3, but doesn't actually look like that's going to happen. That might come early 2023. So I guess the question, kind of is I guess they're just going to be promoting Obi-Wan over the course of the next 3 months. So, kind of makes sense, I guess. We haven't seen a full trailer yet for Obi-Wan or any kind of trailer. So probably going to get that, I would think, within the next couple of weeks, maybe. Is there possibly something going to drop this weekend, Super Bowl? I doubt it, but something maybe in the next month, sometime or maybe early March, I think we could get a trailer of some kind. And that would leave then, a couple months to promote Obi-Wan and for the cast to do their press tours and whatnot. So anyway, look for that. StarWars.com, if you haven't seen, they released a poster. It's got Ewan McGregor wandering through the desert of Tatooine. So pretty cool. But again, till we see some footage, which would get me excited. But either way, I'm excited already for this show. It's definitely at the top of my list for sure. Along with that, which kind of gave me the speculation that this thing was going to start sooner, is that also in May, a 5-issue comic series is going to be dropped by Marvel called Obi-Wan. It's going to highlight him throughout his life. It's going to show him in his early years as a Padawan with Qui-Gon. It's going to show him, looks like during his knighthood, the Clone Wars, and then his time in the desert. So I'm assuming it kind of leads into the series a little bit to make that connection, but kind of weird because the 5-issue series will obviously run. If it starts in May, it'll be May, June, July, August, September. The series is rumored to be only 4 to 6 episodes, so it'll wrap early July. So anyway, probably not a full tie-in, but definitely kind of fills in some of those gaps, I'm sure. So that just brings up the question of when we're going to get the Bad Batch, season 2 of the Bad Batch. Because I speculated that would start May the 4th again, which I guess that's a possibility. But again, they haven't promoted that yet, and they're already promoting Obi-Wan, so it feels like Obi-Wan is the next series. So it's possible we won't get Bad Batch until summertime, July, August, which is rumored to be Andor. So at this point, it does seem to me that we're going to get some overlap. I didn't think we were going to get that, but it does seem like we could have a couple of Star Wars shows going on at the same time on Disney Plus. Just seems like that's what the calendar is telling us if, again, Obi-Wan is not starting until May 25th. So we'll see. If we don't hear anything in the next couple of months, it seems like Celebration will be the time that we hear all of this. Full release dates, get some trailers and whatnot. So Celebration seems like it's going to be the key. And I'm pretty sure now that this is going to be the first celebration since Celebration 2 that I have not attended, mainly because of the uncertainty of tickets, which still, again, is kind of weird that they haven't released that or talked about that. But that on top of the fact that I am actually traveling to Los Angeles this weekend for the Super Bowl. Yes, I am a big Super Bowl NFL fan. I'm a big Bengals fan. I've grown up in near Cincinnati, so I've loved the Bengals ever since I was a little kid. And they have not been to the Super Bowl since I was 12 years old. So not sure that they're ever going to make it back in my lifetime. So I got to take the opportunity and go. So anyway, I'll be going to the Super Bowl, which is going to negate a lot of my extracurricular activities, like celebration, and possibly not the Star Cruiser either, which I was going to try to do this year. Anyway, I know you don't want to hear too much about my football love, but I am going to enjoy myself out there this weekend. Next bit of news is in the Andor front. Season 2 of Andor is apparently already greenlit, and they are going to be shooting this fall. While season 1 seems like it's going to be airing on Disney Plus. So a lot of confidence in that series, apparently. Besides, obviously Mandalorian and Bad Batch have season 2s. Andor is the next series to actually get a multi-season run. So happy for them. Can't wait to see that. If it's as good as I guess they're claiming, then we should be in for a treat for that. But again, that's not going to be debuting until later this year. Fourth quarter is what was talked about on Investor Day. So that means fourth quarter, I think, for Disney again is August, September, October. I'm sorry. Yeah. No. July, August, September. So again, I anticipate this possibly coming late fourth quarter. So that would be September. So we'll see if we can squeeze in season 2 of Bad Batch in between Obi-Wan and that. I guess that's possible. Therefore, there won't be any overlaps. But if Bad Batch has 16 episodes again, it's going to be very hard not to do that. Again, unless I guess you can double up episodes. Double up the finale or double up the premiere, double up the finale. Then you're only talking 14 weeks. Maybe you double up a couple in there. I don't know. We'll see. Not really sure how they're going to do that, but we will see. Okay, so I do want to talk about pretty much the rest of the way the book of Boba Fett. I'll talk about chapter 6 and 7 first, and then I'll run through the publication releases coming up. And then my main topic, I want to kind of revisit the book of Boba Fett as a whole and kind of give you my overall review of the series. So first, chapter 6, which was I apologize, I don't have the titles in front of me, but I think it was called Stranger from the Desert. A stranger from the desert comes a stranger, or something like that. I think that's it. From the desert comes a stranger. Which of course continues the Mandalorian story. Technically, Boba Fett's not even in this thing till towards the end, but we see Din Djarin somehow track down Luke and Grogu. Still kind of confused on how he knew where to go. This episode was just flat out filled with characters. I think we counted 10 popular Star Wars characters. You've got obviously Mandalorian and you got Grogu, but then you've got Luke, you got R2, you got Ahsoka that showed up. Crazy. You got Fennec, Boba Fett, obviously, Chrysanthemum, Cobb Vanth, and then the stranger, which everybody's talking about now, is Cad Bane. Which I knew at some point Filoni was going to bring him in. I mean, it's just inevitable. Him bringing in these characters that he's helped create in the animation to the live action part. The next big one, I feel like possibly might be somebody before them, but obviously one of the big ones coming is Thrawn. So this episode was jam-packed with characters, but incredibly jam-packed with story. I'm not bothered by, I'm seeing on Twitter just a lot of reactions to, this being a Book of Boba Fett TV series, but we're not getting Boba Fett. We're getting the Mandalorian Grogu story. I'm okay with that, mainly because, and only because probably, is that I already know that these shows and these characters are in the same, not only, obviously it's all in the same universe and timeline, but these two shows are intertwined. Like they are complementing each other. Boba Fett was, brought back in The Mandalorian. And just because he got his own show doesn't mean that The Mandalorian can't expand his story in his show. Because again, interconnectivity allows that. So I've been okay with it. These last two episodes, 5 and 6, exploring the Mandalorian story and picking up where we left off. Because for one, it's been a while. It's been over a year since we saw the end of season 2. So I want to know what's happening with them. I want to know if Grogu is going to stay with Luke, if Luke is going to train him. So I've been okay with it. And this has been incredible to watch. And it doesn't take away from Boba's story, because Boba's story picks back up and concludes in chapter 7. I think for me, the main thing about this episode, which I really loved, was I wish we would have seen the first introduction of Ahsoka and Luke. Because it seems like in this episode, they've already known each other for a little bit, or they've met each other before. I want to see that first episode, or that first encounter. And maybe we will get it, obviously, in, like in a comic, or maybe in another series. But I want to see that. I think there's it's just an incredible feeling to see Ahsoka and Luke in live action on the same screen. One thing to do in animation, because you could practically do everything in animation, but to see this in live action is something that you just never would have dreamed of. Never in my lifetime would I have dreamed of that. But it happened, and it's incredible. But again, I want to see them talk about Anakin and Vader. I want to know what Ahsoka first told him. I want to know how many questions Luke had. I just want to know these things. And it's unfortunate that we, again, kind of met them afterwards. So that's the only thing I wish about this episode. Other than that, I thought it was a great episode. I thought, I'm still debating whether or not that's, I guess apparently it's been confirmed that that's the Jedi Temple from the sequel trilogy that we see gets, burnt and destroyed. But at first I wasn't convinced. I was like, no, that's not the same place. Luke eventually finds another place, because now that he's not training Grogu, according to, again, comics and books, he doesn't start training Ben for another 6 or 7 years. So when Ben is 10, he's about 4 right now. So we don't know what Luke does, obviously, yet for these next few years. Does he leave this place and go find another temple? And that's where we see that temple in the comics and in and read about it in the books and see it in the movies. That's kind of where my head was at, but apparently I might be wrong about that, because it seems like StarWars.com confirmed that that is the same temple. So I don't know. So chapter 6, phenomenal. Of course, the ending with the intro of Cad Bane was phenomenal. I thought he looked fantastic. Yes, he's not as skinny as he is in the animation, but to me now, this is the canon version of Cad Bane. The Clone Wars is just a animated version of him. Proportion wise, it's not going to be the same. It never is with the Star Wars animation. So I am floored by the way he looks, by the way he talks. That was incredible. And again, just made sense with the story, especially his look coming out from the desert, with that cowboy type look. Just phenomenal. So that happened. And then chapter 7 happened, which chapter 7 which is a finale. My brief overview of it was good, but not great. Not like the last couple episodes, not even like episode 2 of chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett, which I thought was a lot better. Part of me wanted it to be long. It's an hour long. But after watching it, part of me feels like it was too long. Just because there were parts of it I think you could have cut and not lose anything. So when you get to that point, it starts becoming a so-so episode. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the fighting was incredible. I thought, a lot of action. Especially, spoilers if you haven't seen it, especially the Rancor was phenomenal. Thought that was really neat. But again, one of the things that kind of threw me off was the return of Grogu. I was excited to see the X-Wing because I thought, okay, man, this means Luke is going to get in the fight. But of course, he wasn't in the X-Wing. Grogu was in the X-Wing. And it was just a little awkward that he shows up right in the middle of this battle. I wish he would have showed up after, and there would have been a proper reintroduction or proper reunion with Grogu and Din. So that was a little out of place, I feel like, personally, for me. But overall, chapter 7 and the finale was a good ending. I think I saw someone on Twitter say, actually, does this mean there was a happy ending in Star Wars? Star Wars does have happy endings, and this was definitely one of them. It kind of just ends, too. So we'll see where this goes, if there's going to be a second season, or if we're going to see Boba Fett carry over back into the Mandalorian, which is definitely possible. So that's chapter 7 and the finale of Book of Boba Fett. So I'll get back to my overall thoughts of the series here in a minute. So just upcoming novels, I want to talk about those real quick. Midnight Horizon, which is the High Republic junior novel. Young adult novel, just came out last week on February 1st. So that's out there. And then you've got Queen's Hope coming up in April. Brotherhood, which is going to be awesome, which is Obi-Wan. And Anakin, that's May 10th. So that comes out during the Obi-Wan series as well. Then you got Shadow of the Sith, June 28th, and Padawan, July 26th. Comics, last week you had Crimson Reign #2, The Halcyon Legacy #1, High Republic 14, that was out This week you had Vader 20, and then next Trail of Shadows number 5, which was High Republic, part of the High Republic. Next week you got Eye of the Republic, Eye of the Storm, the number 2 on that, and then the week after that you got High Republic number 15. And then, of course, just a reminder quickly, in first few weeks of March, you've got Star Wars 21, Halcyon number 2, Crimson Reign number 3, and then Han Solo and Chewbacca number 1. That's kicks off in March 9th as well. So those are your upcoming comics and novels. Of course, no shows anymore on Disney Plus. And of course, we don't know what movies are coming. So all you got right now is some books and comics for your enjoyment. So let me talk a little bit about the Book of Boba Fett kind of as a whole. 7 episodes, some flashbacks, and of course, our main story where Boba is trying to keep Mos Espa for himself, but keep the drugs out and run a fairly clean business. Overall, part of me is starting to think about, I Boba Fett's one of my favorite characters of all time, Star Wars characters. I'm one of those ones that really, really loved Boba Fett in the original trilogy. Even though he wasn't in it that much, he's one of those mystery characters that you just fall in love with. I liked his origins in the prequels. I loved knowing where the clones came from, seeing that whole thing. Obviously, the tragedy of losing his father, Jango, really hit home with him. I wish there was more in the Clone Wars that we would see. I think there's definitely some unfinished episodes that didn't happen. One main one was obviously the Cad Bane and Boba Fett storyline that I wish we would get at some point, even if it's, comic form or book form or something. I think it's cool to really see that. You can kind of hear that reference a little bit in chapter 7, that they were worked together. I think Cad said something like, here's one final lesson. So you knew Cad Bane had a little bit to do with the training of Boba Fett. But overall as a whole, I would say that this is a very interesting direction to take the character of Boba Fett, because he is a bounty hunter his whole life, because he is able to kill and defend himself easily. When you think about the underworld of Star Wars, I'm not sure you immediately go to the syndicates on Tatooine. I think when you think about underworld, I'm thinking more of the, bowstring, luxurious cities like Coruscant, or maybe even Hazian Prime is still around at this point. So Hazian Prime, Chantrilla, Naboo, places that look really good on the surface, but then underground in the underworld, there's a lot of crime and organized crime happening. That's where my mind goes to when you talk about, crime syndicates and controlling an area in the underworld. So it's quite unique that when Boba Fett was, I guess, leaving Din Djarin in The Mandalorian after helping him, that he would go to Tatooine to take over. But like I said, I think that's where my mind goes to with the underworld. So part of me kind of wishes it was that story, Boba still in the underworld and taking jobs. I mean, I guess kind of very similar to the Mandalorian show, but still it's Boba Fett, and he could find ways to be different, and we could have a show that's a little different. I mean, I think the video game 1313, which we've talked about a lot on here, that was an underworld Boba Fett story. So even that would have translated well, I feel like, into a series. So I don't know. I did enjoy, seeing this side of Tatooine, especially the Sand People side. Like that was by far the best, to me, the best part of the show was his flashback of getting out of the Sarlacc and being raised in this tribe. I thought that part was really neat. I actually wanted more of that. And I'm still kind of surprised that we still don't know the fate of the female Tusken. We never saw her body, and we don't fully know if she's dead or not. So that part I really wish we saw more of. And helping the Raiders with their lifestyle and whatnot. That was really, really cool. So overall, I guess part of me feels like I wish they would have done a different story, but the story they did was actually pretty good. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Gotta say, it's tough because of chapter 5 and 6 with The Mandalorian. It elevated the show, but I still, no, I would, oh man, trying to compare this and The Bad Batch. I don't know. That's a toss up almost to me, which one I would prefer, because Bad Batch was really good. So we'll see. I might have to think about that one for a little bit longer. But what's next? What's next? Is Book of Boba Fett going to have a season 2? Are we going to see Boba Fett in The Mandalorian? Is Fennec going to get her own show? Stuff like that. I think right away that right now I would say it's not going to get a season 2, but I definitely see Boba and Fennec crossing over into The Mandalorian again, or possibly even Ahsoka. I don't think so, but it's possible, because I do think The Mandalorian then will be in Ahsoka somehow, just because of the connection they're having. So I don't think right now that there is going to be a season 2. I just think that Boba has accomplished what he's going to accomplish. He has peace in Mos Espa, but he will need to help the Mandalorian, I think, in his quest for things. So I think we're going to see him again. I hope we're going to see Fennec again. Fennec is fantastic. Ming-Na Wen played that character perfectly. I hope we see Chrysanthemum. Did Cad Bane really die? He probably did. Looked like he did. But I guess you never know. I mean, in Star Wars, right? I mean, Cobb Vanth is sitting in a bacta tank right now, coming back to life. So there's no reason to think that Cad Bane may survive, but Boba looked pretty mad, so I'm not sure he did survive that. So I don't know if right now, again, I would say that season 2 probably not going to happen, but I've been wrong before. And I just think there's so many other shows that they're trying to put out there. I just don't think they'll go back into production of this. But again, I think he will cross over, and we'll see him in The Mandalorian again. I did really like, exploring obviously the new parts of Tatooine, because again, we've seen Mos Eisley, we've seen Mos Espa, but seeing Anchorhead and Tashi Station, more in-depth looks of Mos Espa, I thought that was pretty neat. So it was almost like we were on a new planet, even though we were on one we were familiar with, and we're about to be on it again with Obi-Wan. Although I think he leaves, he goes off world. So lots of Tatooine right now, and but for good reason. We need to see these characters and expand on these characters. And Boba Fett definitely did that. It changes your perception a little bit of Boba Fett right now, because he is basically a different character. Whatever you know about him from Clone Wars all the way through Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, when he dies, falls into a Sarlacc, that's a different type of Boba Fett. He's a bounty hunter. He does what he's told, and he carries out his missions, flawlessly. Now he is he's a leader of this area of the planet. And, he's not bounty hunting anymore. He's not killing really for money anymore. So very interesting to see this version of him. So again, I think he's pretty established right now. Gosh, I mean, I guess part of me is like, how long does this last? How long is Boba Fett alive during the sequel trilogy? I mean, you're talking 25 years from now. He definitely, obviously, could be alive. He's going to be an old man, but he definitely could be alive for the sequels. And whether or not we get stories in there, we'll have to see. But there's a lot of time left still. Like I said, 25 years that they have to fill in, and I believe they're on that path of filling that in. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Depends on the stories. But we know the First Order is going to rise up. We know Palpatine is still out there. So maybe there's some stories around that. We'll definitely have to see. So for an in-depth, and I mean deep dive into the episode, Chapter 7, the finale, check out the Mandalore podcast next week. Again, I'll be at the Super Bowl, so we won't be recording on Sunday nights. We're going to record on Monday night. So look for the full detailed deep dive from me and Cyber Ren over there on the Mandalore podcast next Tuesday. That will be out. Other than that, that's all I got. Appreciate you guys tuning in and still coming back and listening and watching. Really appreciate it. Actually, let me check if you guys had comments. I haven't been on YouTube in a little while. Actually been pretty busy at work, so I feel bad. I apologize for not returning some of these comments on here. So let me see what kind of comments we got here real fast. I'm trying to waste time, if you can tell, while I look this up. Almost there. Okay. Again, thanks everybody for leaving some comments. We do have a couple of new ones, I think. Let's see. Yes. So on my last episode, which was looking ahead 2022, let's see. Comments. Yeah. Jojo Jar Jar. Thanks. It said, nice. Thanks a lot. I also really like your thumbnails. Are you doing these? Anyways, 2022 is going to be great. Yes. Jojo Jar Jar. Again, sorry to reply on here yet. But yes, I create all the graphics for Inside the Force. I have been somewhat designing my entire professional career, so I feel like I could do it. I don't know if anybody really truly likes it, but thank you if you're saying you like it. I like it. I think it's, I like the simple kind of clean looks. Now, I will say again, in the beginning of these videos, the 3D animated holocron, that I don't do. I have a friend of mine that does that for me. So David Silvanel, who I've known for 20 plus years, great friend of mine. And yes, he does all that. That's his world, 3D animation. So, but all the graphics that are, part of the show or thumbnails, the icons, all that stuff I created myself. Jojo also says, can't wait for Fallen Order 2. The first one really changed my life in such a positive way. Also, I hope it have flashbacks to Eclipse, the HR game, High Republic game. Very true. I think that'd be cool to start connecting games. Definitely on board for that. And then he said, thanks for having me on the Mandalore podcast. No problem. We'll definitely share comments if you have it for that. If you have feedback of the finale, I'll make sure it gets on that show as well. Thrawn Addict says, looking forward to Fallen Order 2. The first one was great. Had a lot of fun exploring different worlds, including Dathomir. That's very true. Hope they introduced more worlds from canon comics, novels, and animated shows. Yes. I want a game on Coruscant. Period. So let's get there. Thrawn also said, was great seeing the N1 Naboo Starfighter. So remember having the toy when Phantom Menace came out. So it was great to see it on screen again. Absolutely. Back to Jojo. Jar Jar saying, a thing from the latest episode that nobody seems to acknowledge. There was one scene that stood out in all of Star Wars, the one with Din entering the elevator, visited his boss for the bounty hunt, and entered the elevator again to walk out. It was all one continuous shot without any cuts. Really impressive for me. I wonder if it was shot that way, shot with that giant green, or rather with green screen, giant screen, or rather with green screen. I think they used the volume for that for sure. And that was from chapter 5. So again, I'm a little behind on these, but yeah, that was chapter 5. And I did pick that up the first time I saw it. I find myself really paying attention to camera shots and their choice of that. And that's definitely what they did there. They definitely interesting. Yeah, it's all something. Yeah, totally agree. That was a great shot. All right. So then we, last week I released mine and Hannah's Beyond the Saga of the next Star Wars comic series volume, which was Mutiny at Mon Cala. So again, a couple comments from Jojo here. Thank you both for keeping up with the new things aside from the movies and series. Sometimes I get behind and you fix that gap for me. Absolutely. We are going to be filling in the gaps. And then Thrawn Addict says, great review. Was really interested in seeing more details on how they funded the rebellion and got ships. They touched on things like that in The Last Jedi, but great to see here. Absolutely. Yeah, this comic series that's between episodes 4 and 5. It's phenomenal. There's 3 years there that we have to fill in, and this is definitely filling in that gap. So it's really neat that you can watch episode 4, read these comics, and then watch episode 5 and see exactly what happened leading into Hoth. Phenomenal. All right. So there you go. Thanks again for following as always and commenting, and love for everybody to kind of keep getting in the action on that. And again, I'll be out this weekend, but I'll be back next week. Got other shows coming out your way, more council sessions, more Masters of the Order, more Beyond the Sagas, and a brand new series I keep talking about, Dark Knowledge, will be coming soon. We're going to deep dive into the dark side of the Force and dark side characters, all that kind of stuff. Me and Master Corey Cooley will be doing that show. All right, everybody. I think I've taken enough of your time by myself. Take care. Have a great weekend. For those of you that do like football, enjoy the Super Bowl. Go Bengals, Houday. Let's bring our first championship home. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much again for watching and listening. I really, really appreciate it. Have a great week. May the Force be with you.